Vidcomon, bienvenue, welcome one and all to another live stream. You may recognize from at least a million years ago, Vicky Poole. We used to stream regularly 2 or 3 times a week. She's back from the wilderness, back from Christmas, back from New Year. She's going to ask you a question. What's that, Vicky?
Are you worried about a recession?
Oh dear.
Talking about a recession looming in 2024. Are you worried, Gareth?
No, actually. I see this time as a massive silver lining, because while a lot of people are running around going, I'm looking for all the opportunities, and I do keep finding them. And I believe there are plenty within the public sector.
Well, you know what? You're right. You're bang on. And I do have to say at this point that if you're tuning in, we haven't pre-scripted this. We've literally got together and we're going to do a live. Let's go. So one of the things which is really interesting is that when you deliver services in the public space, like most councils, LGAs, local government authorities do, you can't just stop. You have an obligation to collect bins, to run schools, to heat public buildings, to clean public buildings. You know, I mean, everything to do with delivering a service to the public spaces in your area. You got to keep going. You got to keep doing it. Now, they might come out for re-procurement. So if you are a subcontractor delivering services to a bigger organization, and that bigger organization has that contract, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for that bigger organization to get slicker at what they do, to demonstrate their value by the incumbency, by saying we do this, this, and this, and we're going to throw in X, Y, and Z for free, or do it differently. Or it's an opportunity for you as a smaller contractor who just does that one building, that one area, to be able to come in and go, I can do this, and I'm not going to be subbing it out, or I am the subby who currently delivers this contract, and you've got no problems with me. Let's have a conversation. Now, this is really interesting because it happens every time that money gets tight, and we've had councils, going under, issuing notices of like foreclosure, bankruptcy.
It seems to be the new fashion with councils to talk about becoming bankrupt. I never thought when 10 years ago nobody would talk about a council becoming bankrupt. It was unthinkable.
So council funding is interesting. So for those of you who don't know, councils don't just keep all of the money that you pay in terms of your council tax, your business rates. They get to keep your council tax, but they only keep a fraction of the business rates, and that goes into a central government pot. And of that central government pot, it then goes towards paying for HS2 and developments at Heathrow, or putting in a new port in the east of the country, and all those wonderful things. So you might be sitting there and thinking, well, I pay my council tax and I pay my national insurance. Why can't I have X, Y, and Z? And a brilliant one here is potholes. I pay road tax. Why are there so many potholes on my roads? Well, your council, your vehicle tax goes to, goes on like to your vehicle. It goes to not the DVLA. It goes to central government that looks after highways. That's motorways. Your local streets that have got potholes, that's a local council job. So when you've got, the roads around by me are absolutely horrific down here in just south of Reading.
If you've got him nearby, he might fill them in for you. You never know.
Yeah. But it's all a council fund. So when you got a lot of flooding, so flooding is a very hot topic at the moment, there's huge impacts. Now, out of the back of everything that's been going on with the floods, people are telling me that business is really struggling, and I'm showing them opportunities. Because if you are a flood consultant, or you work with the environmental agency, or you're a civil engineer, there are so many projects that are going to be coming out. And the reason why they haven't been released yet is because you have to go through contract due diligence. So people, if you're in a business where there is an opportunity for you to sell to another business, you're more likely to be able to sell it to a council as well. Start looking at the opportunities. You might lose money in one area, But that's just business. It's where you pick it up next. That's the opportunity.
So would you agree that 2024 is plumb full of possibility? Absolutely, absolutely full of silver linings. You just need to have the imagination to move your normal viewing angle from there just slightly to one side or the other, and think of all these areas that you can do. I would say that 2024 is the year of authenticity leading. I think people are looking for authentic communications. No bombast about me and my enormous business when it's just you. None of this bullshit about being able to provide millions of services when you can't provide them. I think it's all about being real, and you'll win contracts based on the fact that it's you and you're the specialist and this is your area, rather than being a one size fits all type job.
You know what? You're right. I'm actually reviewing the 13 contracts today, specifically 13 contracts that have come out in the last 48 hours. I took a day off yesterday where I wasn't doing many emails and looking at contracts. I was doing this wonderful thing called client meetings. So I'm catching up. Now, of the contracts that I've seen so far, this year so far, the majority of them are asking for you to specifically list any subcontractors that you're going to be using during the contract.
Right.
And those subcontractors also have to be compliant with the council's regulations. So it kind of says to me that if you're an existing subcontractor that already has all of the required certifications, it might just be that you fall down on one or two criterias, which are more likely to be around like the bigger exclusions like financials, turnovers, and such. Then you're in a good place. You're in a good place, and because you're listed as like a specific contractor that is going to be receiving this contract as a sub, it just really does put you in such a strong state, puts you in such a strong position for any reprocurement, additional works, and so on and so forth. So it's a really great place. And actually, I'm clubbing together with there's four of us, so me and three girlfriends, and we're coming to market later this month with a webinar. So it's aimed towards SMEs, software within the software and tech space, about how to generate business in 2024 by looking at your marketing, your language, nurturing your existing accounts, and then how you target new business. And we all kind of, if you look at the Venn diagram of how we all work together, there's overlaps in pretty much every area of work that we do. But with that overlap, it also means that we get to know which is more my side and which is more their side. So I'll pop a link today as a footnote to this live, and I'll pop it on mine and Gareth's feed as well. So that if anyone's interested in knowing a little bit more, you can join. It's going to be about, is it an hour or an hour and a half?
Do you have a link to it, by the way? Because if you give it to me now, I can roll it round the bottom of the screen. Why don't you do that?
That's very kind of you, Gareth, but I am it's on a different machine.
Technology, eh? All right,
Technology.
No problem.
Well,
so afterwards, in the comments against this will be the link. Perfect.
In the comments, yes. So one of the things that's new for me this year is going to be tech. I do love my children. I couldn't eat a whole one though, and they managed to pick off some of my keyboard keys over Christmas. I left my laptop within easy reach, and it hasn't quite run the same since. I've managed to find all of the keys except A.
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 Right. You probably find I swallowed it.
No, well, I haven't seen it coming out the other side if it was my younger one. So, anyways, moving swiftly on from nappy talk. So what's new in your world, Gareth, for 2024?
Here's the interesting thing. We live in a post-truth age. That is to say, if somebody who previously you would have believed everything that came out their mouth says black is white, you're very unlikely to believe him on the first instance. What is required now is evidence. And evidence doesn't mean my mate says. Evidence is in the form of a paper, a white paper, a document from a central source. Dare I say it, a case study, something that can actually demonstrate not just you represent value for money, but that others think so too and are willing to stand behind it. It's no longer good enough just to say, well, other people like it. They need to see why and how it's similar to what they're doing. I think 2024 is the year of not my truth or your truth, but the truth, if you understand what I mean.
Oh, honey, I do. I think that is true, not just in lead gen and marketing or socials or in contracts and sales. I think that's going to be true across the board. And there's a really interesting, I use this word a lot, interesting. I need to change that. There's a really,
it's a bit of a coverall, it has to be said.
yeah. There's a really intriguing. See what I did there?
Now that is a useful word. Intriguing. Let's use
that. That is a useful word.
Go for it.
I follow a lot of psychologists online, right. And they have been reviewing the new generation. So I'm a millennial, apparently, and the new generations, they're asking for. We talked about the cancel culture previously, where if you say you're going to do something and you don't, and it's a key, well, you're not trustworthy. You are untrustworthy. And then you see this untrustworthiness rippling through in a lot of behaviors that this person does. And then someone just goes, no, that's a cross if you can't say it online. And then they just move on. And then they ghost you, they cancel you. They pretty much get removed from that person's life. Now, people that talk about commitments, if it's late and if it's late for a good reason, then it's like, well, you know what, I kind of get it. I mean, she's got like 7 kids and da-da-da-da. That's why it wasn't done by 5 o'clock. But when you deliver on your commitments, it's a case of, okay, so yes, it was slower, but we delivered. So then you kind of build faith in that person that whilst it might not necessarily happen as quickly as you want it, you know, it's happening as quickly as possible. And, right. You know, I come across this a lot within my life. You know, when a tender gets delayed or the announcement gets delayed, it's really frustrating, but you're somewhat beholden to that person because they're the ones that are spending the money. And it's incredibly frustrating because the suppliers, the contractors, my clients, you know, they're waiting with a team ready to do the contract if they get awarded. Sometimes you just have to hold faith.
There's a topic I want to talk about, and bizarrely, it's loosely related to the huge furore that's blown up around the post office and the Horizon business. And it's this. Monolithic institutions that we used to place our faith in unreservedly, such as the post office. My goodness, the secure, you always used to recognize them there with the final bastion of good truth and honesty, right? Turns out they're fallible after all. Not only fallible, but that the governmental institutions that support them ignored all the evidence to the contrary. And here we are many years later with many people still not recognized as being truthful and honest when they were originally lambasted and even made penniless through the institution labeling them as fraudulent. So here's my point. I think it could be, and I hope, and this is not, I'm not predicting it, I'm hoping that it is, the year that the small business triumphs. The small, local, honest provider with local, honest attitudes triumphs over the monolithic institution. That's what I'm hoping. And maybe even the rejuvenation of the high street. But that's pushing it a bit far. But you see what I'm saying?
I do. I'm also very conscious of time because we like to try to keep these to 15 minutes or less. With the aspiration to not get too politically charged, there is a lot of hype these days about looking at, you know, your immediate community and delivering services in the community. Tenders ask for social value. What are you going to do in the district? And then, of course, if your business is in like a village or a town, it's what are you going to do locally? Well, you can recruit, you can employ, you can deliver talks to youngsters, provide work experience. All this is now having a much more local focus. And I think you're right, Gareth. I think rejuvenation of the high street might be a bit much, but I also think that high streets pose a different purpose. They can be cultural centers. They can be places where people can go in to meet, and not necessarily to buy a pair of shoes or to pick up their prescriptions, because you might be able to do that more locally and support local infrastructure, and then use cities and bigger suburbs for something else. But that's just my opinion.
No, I'm totally valid. So, guys, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us and see us and take part in this. I would say, if you're interested, remember, Vicky's going to put a link in the comments straight underneath this, both on her feed and mine, and hopefully that will give you cause. 4 ladies, can I know the names of these delightful young people?
What, you want me to name drop? We've got the amazing Siraj Baines, who was a really good girlfriend of mine. She does a lot of new business, new logo sales, but she does like the structure. She does all of the pre-market engagement. You've got Michelle Coombs. Michelle is, you know Michelle?
Yes.
No? Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Well, everyone knows Michelle in the tech space. She is fantastic at making your business operations really slick and helping you to figure out any streamlines and processes. And then you've got the amazing Jenny Lowe. So Jenny is a fantastic copywriter who works specifically within the tech space, and she's very good at cutting through jargon and making the most complex jargon seem simple.
And of course, the incredible Vicky Poole, who is her focus.
Obviously, I mean, people are going to go for me, right? I mean, honestly,
a public sector genius, but also it has to be said, most people don't realize this, she was an absolutely top saleswoman for many years in the tech space. So she's got a lot of knowledge that covers a number of different boundaries. If you are interested in any of the of these kind of people, I would recommend rocking up to that. So Vicky's going to put that
absolutely in the chat below. Give us 5 minutes.
Okay, so Vicky, thank you so much for this today. Love that we're back in the flow again. There'll be more from Gareth and Vicky next week onwards. Wednesdays. Until then, I wish you all a wonderful weekend, great business, and of course, wonderful mental health. Bye-bye now.
Bye now.